What's up, aviators? Today's a real beginning of my journey. We did one ground school in the last video, but today I get to meet my CFI. I'm gonna take not one, but 2 flights. So I'm currently scheduled for 5 hours of flight today, plus another 3 hours of ground school. So it is a full day. There's some breaks built in, so hopefully I'll have the endurance to make it through. Don't think it should be a problem, but this is the beginning. So flight 1, flight 2, and ground school 2 today. Come along with me, let's check it out. All right, first flight is in the books. Got 2.2 hours in. Did very basic maneuvers, so just banking left and right and ascending and descending, both while banking and not banking. Those were pretty easy. However, did 3 landings and 2 takeoffs. Those were very difficult, especially compared to the other maneuvers. Feel pretty comfortable up flying around, just doing the basic standard rate turns and ascending and descending. Those weren't too bad, but the takeoff and the landings were very uncoordinated compared to the rest of the flight. Probably the biggest takeaway though is power management, really making sure that I take a look at that. So on to the next flight here in a couple hours. Second flight didn't go off today. We were supposed to take off at 12:45. It got bumped back an hour. And then the plane that we ended up getting, we pre-flight and it had an error of the doors being open. Tried to check the sensors as much as we could to kind of get off the ground. But with an error like that, obviously you can't take off. So did a little bit of ground lessons, kind of talked about some things to be prepped, and went through flight a little bit. Get a little bit of an idea of what's going on there, but obviously didn't get off the ground. So now have a group ground lesson set for 5:30. So I'm gonna get some dinner and catch you after ground. Last night we wrapped up ground after 9 o'clock. It was super dark, so wasn't able to recap that, but I can do that now. So we ended up going through basically all of our maneuvers, normal landings, some of the abnormal landings like a short field or soft field. Went through all of our maneuvers that will be tested on our check ride. It was a lot to kind of go through each piece, and just power settings and all that kind of stuff that you want to know before you're doing those things. Today's flight was supposed to be at 6 a.m. It got bumped back to 7, so got a little bit more beauty sleep in. I can use all I can get at this point. Got a full day, should have a flight at 7 a.m. and then turn around and have another at 10:30. So fingers crossed, as long as the winds cooperate, which not sure if they're going to right now, but we'll figure it out once we get there. Today was a pretty long day, so I was able to get in both flights today. The wind cooperated enough to get us up, so that was great. On the first lesson, basically did the same basic maneuvers, just descending, turning, holding steady flight, and then did some takeoff and landings. They were way better than they were the first day, but I don't know how great they were quite yet. Then in the next flight, we did similar stuff, but we also did power on and power off stalls. I had my instructor demonstrate each one first, and then I attempted them. And then we also used the autopilot some, which was nice because I was feeling really exhausted getting back to the airport. But we also flew the pattern, I think 3 more times, and did some takeoff and landings again, as well as the pattern. Had to extend a little bit just because of the amount of traffic today. So all in all, some really good experiences, but man, like just the amount of hours that I've put in over the last 72 hours is really starting to catch up to me. So I'm glad we don't have a ground school tonight. I'm gonna catch up on some sleep, and I'll catch up with you guys for my 1 flight tomorrow. Good morning. It is Thursday. I have my first flight today at 6:45. This is scheduled ground this morning, and then we jump into the plane about 15 to 30 minutes later. We start all the pre-flight and everything like that, just to kind of give you a rough idea. And that's the only flight that I have scheduled for today. There is an elective ground lesson that is available probably as soon as I wrap up my flight for today. And then we also have a group ground that is required tonight at 5:30. 5:30. So that's kind of the lay of the land. Let's see how things go today. As a wrap up from yesterday, I don't think that I mentioned Blue Line does this awesome thing called Faith Night. So 5:30 on Wednesdays up at Low and Slow, which is right above their offices. They give everybody a meal, and it's the time to share in fellowship and faith, which is awesome to me. It's one of the things that I didn't know about, but I really appreciated having that time last night just to get to talk to everybody about things. You do talk about flying, right, and kind of your experiences, but you're getting to know them. And when I say them, I mean everybody inside the program on a much more personal level, and you get to meet people kind of outside of your own academy and what you're doing. So it's an awesome time. So if you come to Blue Line, it's definitely a perk, and you should definitely take advantage of it. I'll catch up with you guys after the flight. So today's flight was really interesting. Before we even got off the ground today, we had an aborted takeoff because the prop didn't cycle like it was supposed to. So that was the first time that I've aborted a takeoff. Kind of ran through that whole procedure, which was interesting. Not a part of the syllabus and the lesson plan for the day, but definitely something that you have to be aware of and very cognizant, and just made me even trust my instructor even more, right? When you kind of run into hurdles, that they're very safety conscious first and able to help you get out of those situations. So once we did get up in the air, worked through some turns around a point, some steep bank turns, and then some IFR conditions were kind of rolling in. So we raced back and got down. So I didn't get as many landings and takeoffs as what I probably would have done today. We just did one of each. And then was able to get in some group ground lessons that were just kind of open to anybody for private pilots. So that was really great because the instructor came in with about, like 15 to 30 minutes worth of stuff that they thought would be helpful to us. And then it was basically like Q&A. What do you want to know? What do you want to do? And so things like radio calls and other stuff that just weren't really comfortable with, got to ask a lot of those questions. So that was really good. Next up is some group ground that will be planned for tonight. So let you know how that goes. Friday morning, last night we did another ground lesson over weather. And of course, today we get to experience some of it. It may be the first day that I don't actually get up. We have IFR conditions right now. So, and I need VFR conditions in order to get up. If you haven't started your journey yet and you're not sure about what VFR and IFR are, VFR is visual flight rules, and then IFR is instrument flight rules. So in order to fly in instrument flight rule weather, you have to have an instrument rating, which I obviously do not yet since this is week 1 for me. So we'll see if I'm able to get up, have another ground lesson tonight. If I'm not able to get up and fly, then we do more ground lessons. And who knows, maybe even hop in the sim or something like that, but still make effective use of my time on the ground even when I can't get up in the air. So see how the day plays out. So unfortunately it did remain IFR during the morning, so wasn't able to get up today. Did ground lessons on all the maneuvers that we were supposed to be doing in the air. So turns around a point, our pattern, what it looks like takeoff and landing, those type of things, a few other things. But went through that this morning and then jumped in on another group ground that was going on, which was really cool. So got to kind of go through basically weight and balances again and just making sure that we're all up to speed on that, as well as some other like cross-country planning that we are going to do later on. And then also did some emergency procedure, like went through the entire emergency procedure for our flight manual, which is good because not my next flight, since this one got canceled. So flight 6 is, we start doing some emergency procedure stuff, but my next flight will be more of the maneuvering, but emergency prep, get me a little bit ahead of that. So since I didn't get to do anything fun really today, and I've got another group ground at 4 o'clock, so no flights today, I'm going to treat myself to an extra special treat for lunch, so that way I can have a little bit of balance, right? So when I'm not doing as much fun stuff at school, I'm going to try and do some more fun stuff away. And when I'm getting to do all the fun stuff at school, then I'll do the boring stuff like studying when I get home. So that's how I'm going to try and play this out. So I'm going to go ahead, jump over and get some good Torchy's tacos. It's kind of going to be a treat for me. If you haven't had them, they've got really good queso and street tacos. I love it. So I'm going to go get that for lunch, go back and do my group grind tonight. Catch up with you guys later. Wrapping up on Friday, I have done a boatload of ground today, probably 7.5 to 8 hours worth. Today has been a ton of ground. Just finished up about another 2.5 to 3 hours worth of it. Went through airspace, not just, you know, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, but also special use, and went through, and there's a bunch of different special use airspaces, as well as went through some sectionals just to see if we could pick out all the symbols and get a good grasp on that stuff, as I think that's gonna kind of be what we migrate to next. So lots of studying done today. I may do a little bit of looking over my patterns again, since I'm gonna get up early in the morning. I've got a 7 a.m. Hopefully the weather holds up. It looks like it's gonna be good for tomorrow's flight. So that way I can get my 5th flight in on Saturday morning, and then I'll head back home to see the family. So hope it all works out, and we'll wrap this thing up tomorrow. Just wrapped up the flight today. Was able to do some power on, power off stalls, some other maneuvers, S-turns, turns around the point, some slow flight. Simulated some IFR conditions in the foggles today. So good day, wrapped everything up. So now it's the end of the week. Let's take a look at a weekly recap. So this week I was able to get up 5 times. Through those 5 flights, I got 16 takeoff and landings now under my belt, which is really great, because today I did 6 of them and felt much better with both takeoff and landings today. So that's good to get those in. Also got 10.7 hours, so that brings me up to 13.2 total hours, and also got 15 hours of ground in my logbook as well. But I bet you I got probably close to 8 additional hours that was not in my ground book. So lots and lots of studying, lots and lots of actual flights. So I'm pretty happy with where I was. According to the schedule, I should have gotten 6 flights in by this point. So I've already talked to my academy leads. So those are the people that kind of help coordinate your schedule. I'm going to start doing some 2-a-days more often next week to try and catch up. So that way, hopefully by the end of next week, I will end up at 12. That's all kind of the raw data. So emotionally, I feel really good. I can get in the day pretty tired towards the end of the day mentally, but emotionally, I still feel like I'm riding pretty high. Mentally, it is pretty draining. However, going home to see my family that I haven't seen all week and getting to spend a couple of nights with them definitely has me riding a new high, right? Got some adrenaline pumping to be able to go back and see them. If you're staying full-time, you know, just knowing that you have the weekend, I'm sure will also be helpful and kind of rejuvenating mentally and emotionally as well when you need that too. So hope everybody is doing well. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions. Subscribe, hit that like button, and I will see you guys next week. Till then, keep the grass off your wingtips.